So, of course, as many of you guys know by now, I work at a music store, so I do like to and stay informed with music quite a good bit. However, what I'm about to speak to you guys right now is something that's right out of the music press. It's actually right out of an issue of Rolling Stone magazine, and it's something that I kind of wanted to offer my 2 cents to and have you guys do the same. Mainly because I feel that this this article, I agree with some of the things in which it is saying. However, I believe that there are a couple of things that was kind of being ignored throughout its text. And this is the topic that maybe some people have talked about. I'm not sure if they have or not, but I got mine from reading this article. This is the most recent Rolling Stone issue. Yes, the one with the fag Justin Bieber on the cover. It's actually right by an article showing about the return of Beavis and Butthead, but it's 3 very interesting words that really spell a really interesting topic. Is rock dead? Yeah, that was the topic. Is rock dead? And what was the... Well, why would they even say this? I mean, why would this even be something that is a topic that's palpable for this particular magazine? And well, here's exactly what they said. This is something where rock music took a huge hit last year. It was something where rock was dominated in any sort of rating by all other styles of music, whether it be rap, whether it be even country. Of course, we saw country was very well represented. It's very ironic that we kind of talk about this, considering the Arcade Fire won the Grammy, of course, for Album of the Year, and they are considered to be still indie rock, independent rock, and this is something that's going to get into my argument a little bit later on. But the article stated that the main reason why there was a very large gap or a very large windfall in that particular scene as far as sales are concerned is because of the lack of a real marquee name released last year. And of course I disagree with this, considering there were a few. Of course, Kings of Leon had Come Around Sundown, which was supposed to be a really big step in the right direction after their previous album had done so very well. Everyone was really expecting that one to do well. There's a new Linkin Park record as well, which was after the kind of meh Minutes to Midnight, which everybody expected to be a real return to form. And even though Minutes to Midnight, you know, your opinion for it may be good or bad, even though it was considered by me to be meh and kind of sold meh compared to the previous albums, the new one, 1,000 Suns, actually fared a lot worse. In fact, all these albums from the quote-unquote marquee names that were having new releases, the very few that there were, mind you, really suffered a lot whenever it came to the sales. Now, of course, there was a Godsmack release last year. There was also a Deftones release, and those would do well in spurts. However, there was no real... And I got to agree with this article on this particular point, considering as a salesperson, I tend to notice trends, and I'm able to tell whenever something is probably destined to be successful in more areas than just my own. There were no real albums last year from rock-related acts that were being consistently bought at a very high volume. Now, of course, whenever Recovery by Eminem was released, it was being bought in leads to the point where we got over 100 in stock whenever we first received the album. In fact, I think we received close to 200 to 300, and we were selling them left and right. In fact, the day it came out, we easily had sold more than 100 the very first day, and that continued for a period of a couple of weeks. The same was true whenever the new Drake CD came out, Thank Me Later. The same was true whenever Lady Antebellum was released. In fact, that one, though, interestingly enough, it took a week, and it just sold consistently very well throughout the remainder of the entire year. Something that was true whenever the new Lil Wayne came out, the I Am Not a Human Being. Rebirth didn't do quite as well because it was too much of a diversion from everything that people really recognized from him. And then Waka Flocka Flame is the most recent of all these. Gucci Mane did pretty well, and so did Plies whenever it was first released, but it's something that died off very quickly, so that one's a little bit more difficult to kind of tally. Whereas the rock names, there really weren't any rock names. In fact, whenever a lot of these rock CDs were released, there was very little to no sort of fervor. There was no real urgency in order to go out and purchase these records. In fact, there's only one record that I could really even boast to have any sort of acclaim in this particular department, and that is actually To the Sea by Jack Johnson. And that's something that the article also made a very prevalent tone to as well, considering out of all of the artists that were on the top 50 or whatever, the Jack Johnson disc To the Sea was at number 29 for the top sales of the year. Now, that all said, I really think that there's a couple things that were sort of ignored here in this particular year for rock, and that was the fact of the rise of independent rock, or indie rock as a lot of people like to call it. There's kind of a little bit of a plane shift going on. And also, I believe that with this, it's sort of growing and harvesting the acts of the future. Now, this is something that about every 5 years, people tend to really think that rock is dead because it has a down year, and then all of a sudden, bam, 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 it starts to really recover. The lacking of really big major market names was definitely a big hit last year, but also the rise of the Stars of Tomorrow, I think, is something else that happened. We, of course, had the Arcade Fire, as I mentioned earlier, which sold extremely well. The Black Keys album, Brothers, actually just cracked gold status at 500,000 copies sold. And also, there's one that you can't really forget, and that is the album Sigh No More by Mumford & Sons, which did extremely well. And in fact, I just learned this evening that, from a little bit of research, that it has gone platinum. So there's a little bit of a lacking there, but I agree with that. But at the same time, I really think that maybe the shift has just kind of gone another way. Now, the real test, the real litmus test, I believe, will be here in 2011, because there are a lot of quote-unquote big-name rock acts that are releasing albums this particular year. There's going to be a new Coldplay release sometime this year. We, of course, already saw the release of the new Radiohead. However, that was online only in that particular regard. It's something that did not come to stores. So I think on the storefront level, that's still going to be a point in which there's going to be a lot of suffering until it also receives its store release. Because they did that for In Rainbows as well, so will they do it for this particular album or not? I mean, that's going to remain to be seen. There's another REM disc that's coming out here in about a week or so. A lot of big names, and of course, on the closer to metal horizon, I know that I mentioned Tool and Godsmack, which a lot of people consider to be more metal. There's a new Tool album that is going to be released later on this year. Rumored to be released, and it's something that I'm excited for, and I think a lot of people are excited for, because Tool is still definitely one of those names that can really back some buying power. So, I don't know. This is kind of a very strange topic for me. I don't believe that rock is dead. However, I do believe that rock music currently is in a bit of a sleep. And you can definitely tell, considering what you're able to hear on modern stations. Of course, modern rock stations will play a lot of stuff from today and from the past. And I noticed, especially throughout the past about 12 to 18 months, that a lot of the focus has been on music from the past. Yeah, I'm talking like 80% of their playlist, if not more. They'll debut some new stuff, but it's very rare that it'll, make the grade and stay on there. You'll have the new Godsmack stuff. The new Deftones really didn't stay on for all that long. Black Keys, of course, Tighten Up and Howlin' For You have been on now for quite some time and have picked up a lot of steady acclaim. Little Lion Man by Mumford & Sons did very, very well. But aside from, and of course, Porn Star Dancing by My Darkest Days was a huge hit. Aside from that, though, it's mostly just stuff that you've heard before for years now. And the one other thing is that on modern stations where you hear like a little bit of a mix, where you hear some rap, some R&B, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some country, like a modern mix station like that, about 2 years ago in 2009, you would hear a lot more presence from rock groups. You would hear stuff from the Kings of Leon's and others from that particular genre whenever it was being released. John Mayer, of course, being another one, Jack Johnson and the like. You didn't hear that this year, in 2010, and it's something that still is very absent this year. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think that rock music is dead, or do you think that it's just sort of in limbo? I think that it's just in limbo right now and really needs these albums by these big market names to really be strong, to really have some really good material on it, to really revitalize the interest. And a good quote that I can actually cite from this particular record, from this particular article, is that even whenever the boy and girl groups were at their peak in the year 2000, well, rock didn't die off completely, because Creed's Human Clay, well, it sold 6.5 million copies. Rock needs a champion like this year. Do you think that rock will find that champion this year? And if so, who do you think it'll be? I know these are a lot of questions for you guys to consider, especially so early in the year, but I just kind of want to hear your thoughts on this particular matter. And if you can, even though it does have Justin Bieber's ugly ass mug on the cover, and as much as I'd love to have a sniper rifle bullet in his head, if you can, check out the article. It's actually an interesting read, not to mention the company that I work for, FYE, their parent company, Trans World Entertainment, well, one of the main guys in purchasing actually got himself a quote in there. So that was kind of cool to see as well. Take care, guys. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Leave them all in the comment box, or just say fuck that comment box and leave me a video response.